Item 9G, consideration, discussion, and possible direction regarding the color scheme selection and possible approval and authorization for city manager to execute change order number 2 with diversified civil contractors. Robbins.
Good evening again. Tim Robbins, Construction Division Manager, City of Broken Arrow. So as you heard, this is for the color selection for the New Orleans Square intersection. As noted, so on June 6th council meeting, it was the request of council to reevaluate the proposed color scheme for the intersection to include a element that was better representative of the logoing for the New Orleans Square logos. So in order to do that, our engineering and construction team, as well as the contractor and our engineer of record, Kimley Horn, decided to pull together their efforts and take at this jointly. So I have a series of handouts for you, as well as what is on the screen. Grab these and hand these out. I love handouts, so you can see these in person.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Got my walkabout done. All right, so what you have here, we have pulled together a number of selections. The first two color schemes are based on the concept of trying to build this blue mimicking of the logoing. We're trying to build this blue logo for the New Orleans Square. And the blue is going to be surrounded by a differing color of concrete that is the square of the intersection. So in the original concept, this was following a warm or cool tone with multiple colors. So to bring out the inverse of the New Orleans Square logo, the white surround helps to pop that blue. Along with this, the white of the concrete, this white concrete is a integral concrete, so meaning we are coloring from top to bottom of this concrete. That concrete will also match the sidewalks. So as part of this intersection design, the sidewalks will have to contrast for an ADA walkability. It's a government regulation to have a contrast for a visual contrast to the walk. And with that white sidewalk, it'll be a broomed finish that will match quite nicely to that white border around the blue star. The blue is on top of a white concrete with a broadcast hardener with a extra layer of seal on top of that to help with wearability and longevity and brightness. This was done in an effort to control costs, as blue concrete is one of the most challenging concretes to make. So this gives us a really good, long-lasting product that can be modulated in the future. So re-tinted and recolored, brought back to vibrancy later on. The concept here would have a not to exceed additional cost of around $230,000. So let me explain to that. So with these concepts, the valuations with the contractor, we've worked diligently with our contractor and our engineering staff to come up with not to exceeds, as we have not gone down to the line item valuations, as we are still working through some of those costs. So the second color scheme, so we'll go to that next page. So this would be incorporating that same concept, and to build the border around that as complementing to the sidewalks in order to mitigate some of the costs, we went with a more standard color, which is the warm tones. It does not have to be this beige, but it would be a earth tone that is more in line with what was already in the original contract. So that takes out an element of additional costs where we were able to bring that down into a nice middle zone. The thing to keep in mind with these two color schemes is the square around the star. What this will do is add in a fifth phase of construction in it that would be done at a later time. likely our aim would be during the spring break. So in the center, a sacrificial concrete would be placed, about 6 inches thick, so that we can actually fast track the construction inside, because we're not doing that detailed star at that time. So we would be fast tracking, going with sacrificial concrete. That would come out at a later time, the 5th phase. So we would adjust the traffic control around, pushing everything around, come in, demo that, and place these to give a consistency in the color with the blue. That's the biggest highlight of this, is to control consistency, and to place the white around it and make everything look very vibrant at the time of completion. And that would be at the time of completion of just about the entire project, with all the hardscaping around, the streetscaping, and everything. So those are the two main concepts. Again, we can modulate the beige, as you see in the secondary concept, with earth tones to complement how we need. Those would be a standard style of tone. Color Scheme 3 was another concept that we came up to with eliminating that Phase 5, the need for the Phase 5. So what we would do is do a quadrant method similar to what we constructed, and we would build a quarter of the blue star at a time. The concrete would still be white. We would go with a blue hardener with a tinted seal. But at the end of it, after we've gone from phase to phase to phase, to kind of complement to what Mr. Schwab highlighted in the last meeting of different colors and different phases, they would have to come back in, power wash it, and do another tinted sealer at the end. So it is an additional protection and an additional bringing out that vibrancy at the end to control the variations in the color. We do feel confident that with a broadcast hardener, we can control the color throughout there, but it is a little bit more the riskier. That's why we would go with the secondary sealant. This would be going with the original warm or cool color tone that was already bid into the contract. So the only thing really here that would be changing is going away from the original design of the multicolored bordered earth tone or cool tone concept, and going with a white full depth concrete with a blue cast hardener. So basically with the cast hardener, as like Kenny was saying, is a powdered dust that we rub into the concrete at the top, and then we seal it with a specific specialty tinted sealer on top.
Which will last longer with less maintenance?
In what regard, sir?
Well, I like the looks of having the square, the inset with the surround, the border. The border,
yes, sir.
But I'm trying to figure out, in relating the cost.
Absolutely.
What, if we went, which one between 1, 2, and, I mean, 1 and 2 appear to be the same with different sidewalk treatment.
Yes, sir.
And the sidewalk treatment is what defines the cost. Number 3 appears to be what was on the table before. I'm not really excited about either one, but it appears to be what was on the table before, with the blue added in.
Yes, sir.
Without the frame. So you were explaining the different, which one will last longer and require the least amount of maintenance.
Absolutely.
Regular maintenance going forward. Because it's different treatments.
Yes, sir.
I understand. So
absolutely.
Which treatment will last the longest?
So the treatments that would be going down are very similar. It would just be going down in different phases. So the benefits to the color scheme 1 and 2 is that the contractor would be coming in and casting it all in one time. So the entire blue star would be cast in one placement, likely early in the morning, and sealed that afternoon. In phases, in the schemes 3, the star would be made in a quadrant method. So there's 4 different placements. So with that, there are joints that could have a potential to pop. We would be mitigating some of that, but there are construction joints in there. Now, construction practices, they have a very strict tendency for installations that try to mitigate those, but there are higher risks with that option. And the main cost mitigation there that we were able to come into is eliminating that 5th phase. The 5th phase, and when we talk about that is around $50,000 to $60,000 of additional traffic control, remobilization, plus the additional concrete costs.
One other question, I'm sorry, because I've been studying this all day. The fifth piece, so if that happens in spring break, so you put basically a filler concrete in the middle, which would allow people to drive across it until that piece is completed and then inserted. So you could have everything completed in the timeline we discussed, put in the filler piece, you called it
Sacrificial concrete, yes.
which I get that. That sometimes feels like that here. But the sacrificial concrete and the drivers could use it until we complete the piece that then inserts in.
That is correct.
Is that my understanding?
Yes, sir. So with it,
That's what costs the extra cost, because they have to come back again to
That is
insert
correct.
it.
So why do we have to wait till later to do
So-
that piece?
yes, ma'am. So the concept would be is to try not to impact the schools. So with this, the fifth phase would be rather aggressive. And by rather aggressive, we would likely have to shift down to a reduced east-west transversing path. So we would likely have to shut down a lane or do night times, or we have not really broke into that phasing, but it would be some concept to that, to where it would be a 10 to 14 day, likely around 10, significant impact to the intersection.
And if we did it during the construction, that would be falling right during the shopping
That
season
would,
as well.
yes, sir.
And
That
school.
would,
Okay.
that would right into Christmas time. The sacrificial phase, while I cannot guarantee it would fast track construction, we are reducing out the complexity of the center with going into this sacrificial, and each phase would be around 4 to 5 days to maybe even a week of just working on that star, is what we were initially estimating. So it will reduce it, give us a chance to get that intersection open before. There is no guarantees with construction timelines. However, it does boast to a increased constructability. And then coming back into the time frame of spring break would help us mitigate the impacts to the schools, the drop-off, the pickup traffic, the school buses, and as well as give us an opportunity to finish all the other hardscaping and really turn over a beautiful project.
Well, it would limit the impact on the businesses as well.
Yes, sir.
If it's
Absolutely.
done over, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what has concerned me as much about anything is making sure we can have access during their busiest times.
Well, what concerns me too is that, did you say that scheme 1 and 2, the durability would possibly be longer than the other one as far as the lack of so many seams and everything?
So, yes, sir. So with that, with the 4 phasings, we would be making construction joints. But that was already part of the original plan as well. So the construction techniques would still be the same as what we had before. We already had a 4-phase. The biggest complexity is with the blue. With maintaining a very consistent blue in color, getting the broadcast evenly, using it all at one time, it is the most advantageous to do it at one time. However, I would not feel comfortable in presenting this option, this option number 3, if I didn't feel like it was achievable. We do feel like it is achievable. The controllability with our contractor is there. He helped us to, Diversified Civil Contractors, the owner, worked with us hand in hand to develop it. The white banding is what creates that additional cost right up on top of it to highlight that.
Is there
Well,
any concern about tire marks and all of that, like instantly? on the
Because
white
I
banding?
look out here in the Rose District where they've got stamped concrete, and it's got in the intersections,
Yes.
right? And you've got people driving over that and hitting it because they're driving too fast. They're going over the raised, and there's chunks ripped out of it
Yes,
that is going to have to at some point be repaired.
that's correct.
I'm disinclined to do something here that would result in the same problem.
Absolutely.
So the mayor's point is taken. That's been something I've been worried about.
Absolutely.
Is durability for this, and we do something that's this lovely, and then you have, I understand there's certain things you're going to have no matter what, but how long will this last?
It seems like in the Rose District, it's like a stamped
It is. So
Concrete,
in
so
the
that's-
Rose District, it is a integral concrete. There is also separate areas that is just a broadcast. So it is a mixture throughout. It is an intersection. It will get a lot of wear and tear. We will help to implement internal practices. Through this process, we've even thought about the durability and the cracks that will ultimately come. So what we'll, in building construction, is very common to do what's called attic stock. As we will, when we're handing over a building to Ryan and his team, we'll hand over a whole chunk full of ceiling tile or roofing. In this case, for Rocky's team, we will hand over a attic stock of the blue. We'll purchase extra blue powder, and we'll purchase extra blue tint. That way, if there is ever a repair that has to happen, we can follow a similar process. Even if we sub it out to a separate contractor, the product will still be there for it. The longevity of the blues, we have worked with our contractor. There's several sites that they sent us some blue broadcast hardened products that we've reviewed and watched for the weatherability. It's hard to say. We were not able to find a blue in an intersection. Again, blue is one of the most hard to come by products. So we've done a lot of due diligence in trying to find those. We did find one that is a pedestrian monument, and it's weathered quite well over the last 12 to 14 years. We can share those images if
So
needed.
what I hear you saying is this will be a unique and a unique intersection that nobody else has.
What I can tell you is it has been increasingly difficult to get a hold of the blue. It is a very excessively difficult.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that it's a unique intersection that other people will not have, and that's kind of what we're going for, isn't it? I mean, and I think are there people that want to speak? I want to hear them too, if there's somebody. There are. Okay. I will say what my personal opinion is, and this is hard for me because I always want to look at all the money, and I also want to take into consideration the hours, who knows how many hundreds of hours that have been spent by not just the city council, but also our citizens on committees, and just, I mean, this has been a process for a long time in the making. And I feel that the number one, the first with the white, this color scheme 1, is by far the best option because it's what we were going for. I mean, I think it exhibits what our branding is all about. It has really good contrast for not just for pretty and for drones going over New Orleans Square, but also for ADA compliance. I mean, it's because I was actually talking a friend of mine who's blind that everyone knows I have a friend that I take around to things, and just thinking about things like that. I mean, the contrast is really good, and also the fact that there aren't any joints, and I feel like that makes the most sense. But I'm not an engineer, but from what you just said, it makes the most sense. I do know that this is difficult, but it stands out and it's spectacular, and that is what we were looking for when we started this whole process. And the price difference, while on paper it looks, I mean, to me it's a lot of money, but in the scheme of things of concrete and last 25 years, and I mean, I know there'll be accidents and stuff that happens, but the longevity of concrete, and I asked these questions earlier, is much longer than our asphalt roads. I feel like this is what we wanted when we were rebranding and revitalizing this intersection. And we did just approve, I did add it up, we approved just on our consent agenda alone tonight, $6.5 million. So this amount isn't in the scheme of things there. I think we can look at that too, and this is a permanent fixture at a very important intersection in our history in Broken Arrow.
And I would be remiss to say, as one of the additional options, the original concepts, we have verified with the contractor and everybody, the original bid schemes, the equivalent costs for the warm and the cool tones are there with zero cost change orders. I do apologize, I didn't mention that earlier, but it is as an option as well. The timelines to take into consideration here is, again, when we talked about the extension of the time into the spring break timeline, it would add a little bit to the end. However, the bulk of the project would be complete. While in an ultimate change order you would see a time extension increase, it is important to note that that time extension increase for the interior of the roadways, getting everything back to it, would be for the back end of the contract. So originally we have a completion in March to early April. It would just shift that out a little bit, even though we're still working in that time period. So
I just want the intersection to be open for Christmas, honestly, for that season.
If I may add, using either concept 1 or 2, which had the square, that's a 40 by 40 square, and as Tim mentioned, sacrificial concrete, it's actually quicker for them to get the intersection back to that point,
That's what I was trying to say.
which I think is to your point. It's easier construction, because if you just take a look at the star, no matter which concept you look at, think of how they have to form that star. They have to put the lumber down to form it. So they could easily do a quarter of the square in our quadrant method, sacrificial move, and then we do the actual center medallion, as I've been calling it, over spring break or something. So they could have the intersection, talking to the contractor, basically at the time frame that we've been talking. If you did a square.
Well, and I mean, I think that brings us basically to 1 or 2, and then trying to figure out whether the white versus the beige is worth the extra cost in the grant. I mean, you know, that, to me, that's where I'm at, is I think 1 or 2, based on being able to get the road work done based on that, if we're gonna go with the blue, which is perfectly fine to me.
You've essentially summed it up.
That's the question, is do we do beige or white? I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's the question.
And it is important to note the white, while the beige, the earth tones would be a additive to the concrete to get us into those consistencies. The white is, what the contractor's proposing is a white Portland cement. So it's not even a gray cement like you would normally see in a standard mix. They have worked out a location where they can get white Portland cement. I've never seen white Portland cement, so it's kind of an exciting concept. But that would be throughout the entire thing. So when maintenance comes through, that would be something that's underneath the chipping, etc. As well as with the earth tone. The earth tone would be colored throughout, just very much like our roads district. And it would be a broom finish where it's a very, very replaceable product in both regards. The white is locally available, it has special order, but it can be done.
That would be my other thing, is having something that we do now, and 5 years from now, we have to drill in for some reason, because inevitably it happens. And then having something unattractive, or not match.
Absolutely.
Because if we're going to invest an extra $250,000 into this, I'd like to see it stay looking nice for a long time.
And I think the key to that's for a long time.
Uh-huh.
I still
Long
go
time.
back, you know,
Long
I
time.
like all of it. It reminds me of New Orleans, and
Yeah.
I can live with any of them, any of these. It's just the longevity, you know, before Rocky and his guys have to get in there, he needs to get more of the outside areas, the subdivisions done first. So it needs to be several years before he gets in there.
Yes.
Well, and I'm
absolutely.
sure we'll immediately hear about the tire marks on the white concrete, so.
Well, but really the beige, it'll be about the
Either
same.
one, yeah.
It'll be about the
It'll be
same.
gray before you know it, so.
I'm honestly,
think? You
my
think it'll be
struggle
gray before you know it?
is
Well, the tire marks,
white
they'll be
worth
black.
the extra $105,000. That's my biggest, is that enough of a pop to make it worth an extra $100,000? I don't know. That's
It
been
is
my
pretty
struggle
good.
since I saw this, because I was easily swayed on the putting in, especially with the way we could conceivably open up the intersection sooner for traffic for the holidays. I like that,
does.
And clearly 1 and 2 both look better than in my opinion, than 3. I was
Absolutely.
just trying to decide whether it's worth an extra $100,000.
And the finished properties are going to be about the same with the two colors. We did shift away from an exposed aggregate to offset some of those costs with the whites to try and bring that down. We will also, it's important to note that we noted these as a not to exceed. So we will still be very diligent stewards of the people's money, regardless of the option, including the base model, of working the contractor, making sure that what we paid for in the base bid is what we get credit back for. No 50 cent on the dollar valuations. It is what we expected is what we're going to get as a compensation back to credit towards whatever scheme is selected.
If there aren't any questions right now, I'll go ahead and have the citizens speak. Thanks, Tim.
I'll leave that there.
Chase Elkins.
Good evening, Chase Elkins. It's good to be here. I commend you all for taking the time to look at this. I had the opportunity to sit on the original Elm and New Orleans committee back in 2019 and 2020, and we looked really hard at branding and what this area could be. In my opinion, we can close the book on the original warm and cool tones. I'm all for the white and the gray, and as we're talking tonight, we're talking about something unique to Broken Arrow, unique to this area, and I know it's going to be challenging. I have a lot of faith in our administration to make this work because of what I know of their work. And I also think about the northwest quadrant, the shopping center. They recently painted it white, and they've got the gray. This is going to look great with what they've got there as well. You're going to have tire marks with white. You're going to have tire marks with beige. I think the number one concern we're going to hear from the community is the longevity, because we did have the temporary tactical urbanism with the paint, and I understand that was a temporary project, but there was a lot of comments about how the paint faded quickly, and this is a different type of application. We're going to have to get that message out there. But if this fades, if the blue fades after a year, we're going to hear about that too. So I'm all for 4 or 5 times the sealant application if needed, because I want to see this blue. I think it's going to look great. Thank you.
Thanks, Chase. Mindy Payne.
I'm shorter than Chase. Thank you guys so much. I know this is a big decision, but from being on the first committee and the second committee, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I love the blue and the white. It pops. It says, hey, come see what we have. Hey, drive through this area. You want to shop here, you want to drive here, you want to build your business here. This says it all. The blue and the white pops. There's nothing else like it. I have total faith that Kenny can
pressure,
make this
Kenny. No
amazing. And it's going to be great. So the warm tone, it looks like baby poop. So make it's like the white it pops. So that's just my opinion, and thank you guys.
Thank you, Mindy. Lori Lewis.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, Council, thank you for all the work you've done in this area, the dedication, the time that has been spent, and most importantly, the budget allocations that have been made for New Orleans Square. As someone who remembers this area from date nights in high school to dinners out in this area as a newlywed, it is a piece of my heart you're revitalizing. You're also revitalizing the businesses and our community in this area. As a member of the advisory committee, the updates are vitally important to our businesses and our community. With regard to the intersection schemes, I took time today to review all the color schemes, and I'm in favor of additional color scheme 1. I lean towards the blue and the white. The reason I do this is a logo was selected and a marketing plan has been developed, and I believe that that color scheme will work best with what has already been decided and budget has been allocated for. With the above being said, as a committee, we are thrilled to see the improvements moving forward. I realize that picking this color scheme may take a little extra time, but I think it's important that we get it done right the first time. As we drive through that intersection, we're already spending a little bit more time there. So I just say, next time you drive through, close your eyes. Sorry, Chief Berryhill. And just imagine of what that will be with the blue and the white. And remember, that area has over 70 businesses that we are concerned about. So turn to the right and support one of those businesses. Those business owners are our family. They are our friends. They employ people. They bring sales tax dollars to our community. And most importantly, we're here for them. So thank you.
And thank you for the reminder to turn to the right.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yes.
Just don't close your eyes if you're behind or in front of me. Generally between 7 and 5 of an evening.
Thank you, Lori. Curtis, can we go ahead? Can I just read this one?
Yes.
We had an email on this item that came through from Matthew Griffiths. He stated, I would like for the City Council to know that a large investment in New Orleans Square is an even larger investment in our city. The color schemes that were presented at the last meeting were dismal and did not match the innovative mood that the New Orleans Square Advisory Committee and our great City Council worked very hard to develop. Where is the color? I am in the favor of the city selecting the scheme listed as additional color scheme 1. If you pull up the attachment in the agenda, it is the blue and white one at the top page of 6. In the grand scheme of things, an additional $230,000 in a small investment for continued long-term growth of New Orleans Square and the city as a whole. Higher quality of life costs money. This city not only deserves a higher quality of life, it requires it. And who knows, perhaps a nice development such as an amusement park somewhere down the road and in the future will make up for what the city needs to spend right now on this crucial and very colorful project. Kind regards, me. And he had me say that. That's nice. Okay. So that is all the citizens that want to speak on it. Are there any other discussions?
You know, I feel like I asked about how much money, and I know it's different because we have a TIF, but for the Rose District, we've spent in the past 10 years approximately $43 million. And so when we look at some of the investment that we're making in New Orleans Square, we have, invested quite a bit of money for the time period that we've looked at it, but what we're getting, the bang for our buck, and also the sales tax dollars that actually in New Orleans Square are higher than the Rose District. I feel like this is really a drop in the bucket of what this intersection, but not just that, the whole overlay district and everything that we're doing, just it's going to pay for itself exponentially.
Well, I'm just going to share with the council, if I can, Mayor. I mean, obviously, we do have the funds to do this. We would cut into what's in the budget, which gives me a little bit of concern, and we may have to take some additional money out if there's a change order or two that's unexpected. So there is the funds to do this. And secondly is that I just consider this to be something that's the armor all. It's what our city needs. It's what we've talked about, and it is a little bit extra money. But to me, this is our opportunity to actually, I think, take our community to the higher level in terms of expectations. I mean, we're getting ready to do a streetscape type initiative that's going to define how we're going to be looking at intersections for future development, for future bond packages. I mean, I'm sure that a design like this for intersections will be in there for something for the council to consider in the future. So I just think it's our opportunity to actually show the citizens that we're trying to improve this area as well as improve what we expect of our community, and I think it just helps overall with the quality of life.
I'll go ahead. If we don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I want to,
As part of this motion, as we kind of noted, there is still in the progress of working through the details with the contractor on the valuations. So as part of this, the motion, we will need to authorize the city manager to execute the change order with the contractor for up to a valuation for the selection that is made. And what this is going to allow us to do is with our next council period in July 19, we want to get the contractor moving on whatever color scheme is selected. So if there is one of the selections is made with that has a valuation, we'll need to write a change order, and this motion will be authorizing the city manager to execute said change order, and we will come back at the next council period to ratify that change order.
Mayor, if I may? Is Trevor, you good to go with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So can it include the concept that just because we can spend up to 230, we don't have to?
that's the max.
Absolutely. And that is the concept that we wrote into the RFA and this not to exceed.
Well, I understand, but sometimes not to exceed means, oh, I can go up.
So do I need to
So,
say that?
yeah.
Do I need to say that in the motion? Okay, not to exceed?
You have to give me an amount, Vice Mayor.
Okay.
And I assure you that engineering has, that is a very conservative estimate.
Okay.
I hope.
All right, well, I want to, hopefully I'm saying this right. I want to authorize the city manager to execute a change order for the valuation based on color scheme number 1, not to exceed an additional $230,000. Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Sorry, I got all excited.